oil and gas companies that I work with understand themselves as such now. They understand themselves as gas and oil companies because they understand a couple of things. A, oil is actually much easier to substitute because oil is used mostly for transportation, and we're seeing the oncoming revolution of electric mobility. So they know that demand for oil is going to go down. Gas is a little bit more difficult to substitute currently with the renewables, but that is coming too. So gas and oil companies definitely are, most of them are already on a transition path, fully understanding the new reality.
Is recycling or cleaning up the ocean the answer to garbage? And we realize that recycling is very important, critically important. Sure. And making things from recycled material also very important because that creates the business flow. But it's not the answer. It's sort of like if you wake up every morning and you have a headache. Yeah. Maybe you take a pill and the headache goes away. But the next morning you wake up again. So the pill hasn't solved your chronic headache. Right. And that's what recycling is. Critically important, or you still have your headache, but it's not solving waste at the root cause. And so we started thinking, what is the root cause of garbage? Why does it exist? And where we landed on this, with some great partners like Procter & Gamble, but now Nestle, Pepsi, all these major producers, is the root cause of waste is disposability.
Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera. Anda sedang menonton Agenda AWANI, satu-satunya media Malaysia yang berdiri tegak dalam kesejukan tolak negatif 17 darjah Celsius di atas pegunungan Alps di Davos hanya untuk anda, kerana kita membawa balik banyak maklumat, info, data dan kepimpinan fikiran, thought leadership. Dan episod ini satu episod siri diskusi, ambil apa yang dibincangkan di Davos dan juga di Eropah. Dalam perjalanan pulang tu kami singgah di London dan tengok apa relevannya di Malaysia dan bagaimana kita balik ke serantau dan kembali pada dunia. Syarikat Malaysia yang bergerak hebat di persadaran antarabangsa dan kini juga kembali ke Malaysia dalam pelbagai perkara. Serba Dinamik, Datuk Sri Karim ada bersama dengan saya. Teruskan kali ini, tadi kita dengar tentang isu kelestarian. Kita ada satu planet, Datuk, semua orang tahu, tapi tak ramai orang tahu bahawa ikan makin kurang dalam lautan berbanding plastik dan mikroplastik, plastik mikro. Itu apa yang kita buat. Kita baling dalam sungai, dalam longkang dan sebagainya, kita tak sedar, itu menjejaskan kehidupan dan akhirnya kita makan ikan yang dalam dia ada plastik, mikroplastik kecil. Christina Figueres, dulu IPCC, Christina Figueres yakin bahawa kita sempat jika kita bermula hari ini untuk tahan kenaikan peratusan suhu dunia kepada 2 darjah itu, tapi perlu lakukan segera dan dengan menyeluruh. Tom Zaki pula, kalau Christina Figueres bercakap pada pihak pembuat polisi dan sebagainya, Tom Zaki seorang usahawan yang begitu kreatif. Dulu beliau yang mengenalkan usaha untuk membasmi plastik di lautan, kini beliau bergerak ke tingkat lebih tinggi. Kenapa kita kena jadi consumer yang pakai buang? Contohnya, kita beli apapun kotak dan bekas. Ubat gigi yang sedang dilihat oleh Tom Zaki adalah seperti chewing gum atau mint yang hanya dikunyah dan kemudian habis, boleh ditelan dan tak ada bekas. Aiskrim jenama terkenal pun sekarang, dulu beliau pastikan shampoo bekasnya itu dibuat dari plastik yang dikita semula dari lautan. Kini tak payah ada bekas, kerana macam juga kalau kita pergi pejabat bawa mangkuk siar, tak payahlah bungkus dalam plastik dan kertas, kan, Datuk. Jadi beliau nak lakukan itu dan itu dipanggil circular ekonomi kitaran, berbanding dengan linear ekonomi yang bermula titik A, akhir titik Z dan Z itu lupus. Kalau saya lapiskan itu pada sektor tenaga dulu, Datuk, kita tahu Sarawak dengan hidronya, dengan solarnya dan kini dengan hidrogennya telah memberikan pilihan alternatif. It gives us a new energy mix and hopefully that can grow. However, I want to go back to nothing to do with business and technology. I want to go back to the mindset and attitude of the people. Because circular economy or otherwise, if we are not investing in our everyday lives, how we use things, what we think about, then the industry can push, but the people won't be taking it up, and it will not make business sense. I've interviewed you enough time that to know that you always mention about stakeholders, quarterly reports and everything, so it won't help you there. So how do we move the agenda from the capacity, infrastructure, investment, and also commercialization stage together with awareness, adoption, mindset, and routines of everyday lives of the people, Datuk? Because especially in our country, sometimes there's a big gap here.
I will say that I'll see it from two perspectives. Perspective number one is rightfully, like what you have mentioned, this will, for the time being, will not be commercially or financially related returns for the cost or the time and the efforts that is going to be put in. But I strongly believe that as a corporate organization, we do have what we call it as corporate social responsibility. And as a responsible or corporate entity, we do allocate budget to pursue and to make sure that this journey or initiative is being realized. So I see that from the angle, in terms of all these eliminations of the practices of throwing all these plastic waste, which will create a disastrous effect onto the environment, as part of this kind of investment that the company has to be put in. But I also believe that sooner or later there will be a technology where it can convert this waste into usable kind of products. It's also the same thing way back lots of years ago. People never believed that human waste can produce electricity. But today, it is a means of producing electricity. So all these are technology that comes into the applications. And I believe sooner or later, like I mentioned, this plastic waste and so on will also be a source of items which commercial entity will be rushing for it. It's the same thing like pomade in the palm oil industry. At one time, nobody wants it. But now everybody is rushing to it because it has methane. And methane is very useful to be used as a means or energy source to produce electricity.
The problem is only the CO2. Another problem is, I want to jumble it up a bit because you're a thought leader. Sometimes the business exists because the opportunity is there.
Yes.
That's what you're saying. Without the oil and gas industry, there might be not much plastic in the world. Plastic was one of the key derivative, if I can put it that way, pulled out from the supply chain of oil and gas. Okay, apart from burning it for energy, what else can we do? So hence the process of production sees plastic coming out as a feedstock. But looking forward, rather than doing that and then thinking of how to manage it, the idea of the circular economy where we don't just use, produce, use and dispose is already in our forefathers' generation. If I go all the way back, and I like you because also you give me an angle to go into Sarawak every time, the longhouses of Sarawak is a very unique example of that, where you don't use more than you have to. Anything you take goes back to nature. Even the idea of ownership of native customary land, where it's a shared ownership, where everybody can forage into the natural ecosystem and make a living. Nanti semua yang degalau and menua semua tu I will ask you later. Some still get my information and understanding cross on that. But this is what I want to go back to. It doesn't mean that as we go high tech, everything has got to be new. Some fundamentals were already there in our society, where sharing concept and being sustainable, mesra alam in that sense, Datuk. How do you look at it? Because Sarawak has always been your ecosystem before you have the billions to go out and conquer the world. So maybe I would like to allude to maybe your earlier experiences and the idea of the fight for sustainability. Because I believe if Sarawak can make it in leading our fight in sustainability, Malaysia can make it.
I always believe in the idea of sustainability. Even in all the undertakings that our company is doing, sustainability has been a priority, because it's no benefits if we are good at one time and we cannot sustain it. And even up to a level, I give an example like sustainability report sections is a compulsory requirements in our reporting of the yearly reports for a listed entity. So back to your questions, from the perspective of sustainability of the environment, I will say that it is something that everybody has to play a part of it. And as organizations like Serba Dinamik, we are actually playing these particular functions. But again, I think you will not like what I'm going to say, because everything that we are going to do is very much linked up to the dollar and cents and return back of investment. So what we have done actually is we have debate and discussed on this. The conservations of the sustainable look of the environment is something which is very important. So what we are doing is, for example, like the entertainment world, when you talk about theme park, theme park now is they cut down the trees, level up the areas, build in the infrastructures and so on, and it destroy all those original natural ecosystem. But actually, that ecosystem, if we reinvent it without destroying it, but put in a dressing mechanism into it, it can actually pull in a lot of attractions.
Understood.
I give you an example. If you have gone through to see the movie of Avatar, and then the Aquaman, you will see that how the nature is being used, but it digitalizes out the backgrounds and so on. It makes a massive attraction to people.
Correct.
So we are actually talking about all this kind of technology incorporate into all this ecosystem as a new rollout of entertainment approach.
So Serba Dinamik is not just an oil and gas and energy servicing company only. After that,
well, we have always said that we are an engineering solution provider. Oil and gas is one of the sectors that we have been predominantly there for as a historically set up journey. But again, these engineering capabilities, innovations, digital capabilities, we are looking into entering into different sectors, because at the end of the day, we are responsible to bring back the returns of investment.
Totally agree, Datuk. You're coming into my world now, and I like it. I know little about oil and gas, but I do know about creative content in the environment and ecosystem. Let's go for a break, but once we are back, what you have just said also means sometimes you've got to do it first and then get the rest to come. Like if you don't go to California trying to find gold, then there'll be no others rushing there for the gold rush. So, but how do you balance that against the, like you always say, every quarter you need to make a report, but sometimes in entrepreneurship you've got to take that first risk. That's what we're talking about, because maybe even in the era of Malaysia Baru, rather than just looking at tightening things up, cleaning things up, we also must concentrate maybe a little bit more time and resources to take that risk that will propel our nation forward. Risk-taking is what I'm going to talk about, but we're still firmly anchored on green and sustainability after this. Anda masih lagi menonton Agenda AWANI, and this is a special series of Agenda AWANI which looks at what has been discussed at the frontier of knowledge at the World Economic Forum in Davos every January. Last January 2019, I was there with Agenda AWANI's team. We've taken out many salient points, and now we're talking about sustainability, and Datuk and Senior Karim has given me the opportunity to, landscape it to the local ecosystem scenario. Datuk has made the point before the break that as an engineering services company, it doesn't only have to look at the footprint where it has stepped on before, only oil, gas, rotating equipments or otherwise, but also the same resources and technology can be utilized to enhance shareholders' return. Now, see, I've been speaking to Datuk too much. Now I'm talking in that language, but fine. If we talk about investment and returns, we must also talk about risk. There's no entrepreneur in the whole wide world that can shy away from risk. Every decision taken have that risk element, but especially so for certain fundamental things, like Malaysia was in the old era, now Malaysia is in the new era. If Malaysia in the new era only look at saving things, looking at tightening things, looking at ensuring things, now I want to ask the new Malaysia to look at the risk-taking part also, because we want to be an entrepreneurial nation, that's the given, but can we really do that without thinking of risk? Even for you, taking Serba Dinamik into the uncharted territory of creative content, theme park attractions that is green, is not a business as usual, not the mandate that maybe the shareholder buying your shares before, because they didn't see that. But now to enhance shareholding value, you give them this proposition, which is still a risk. Now I'm asking you to leverage that risk to the nation. If only Serba Dinamik goes for theme park building, or construction, or creative content, but the whole state infrastructure, federal infrastructure is not gearing towards that. That's like Walt Disney trying to have a Disney theme park in America, but America doesn't want to look at theme parks. How do you think New Malaysia should look into new areas like this, rather than repeating the traditional theme park where we build and build and build? Now we can take a whole forest with everything still in it, injecting certain laser notes points, certain macam ni lah, macam Iron Man Jarvis, tetapi dalam hutan Malaysia contohnya, you get what I mean, right? So just go for it. Now I need to leverage you for the risk that this nation must be taking.
Okay. Fully agreed with what you mentioned. Risk is a component of what Serba Dinamik is taking very seriously into. And in any initiative that we embark, number one, we are saying that we are not deviating from our core competency as engineering solution provider. Capabilities on the maintenance, capabilities on the EPCC, because all those thinking comes into whatever new developments and innovations that we are going to create. And the issue of risk is a step which is compulsory in any investment which is significant in our company. So what does this mean? It means that before we embark, we have the investment committee. We have to sit down and carry out the necessary feasibility study, whether this investment will get the necessary returns or not. And risk from the aspect of safety security is also another component. That is where we link up with respective country regulators and so on. So I would say that fully agreed, risk is a very important component. We take note of that and we are implementing that in our operations.
Datuk, sometimes people can be very cynical, and some of my greatest critics out there, and I love them very much. So why are you talking about green and sustainability with a company that have engineering services, EPC, whatnot, with the oil and gas industry? It's the same thing when you see Shell, for example, and then you see their effort in solar, and also maybe hydrogen, and also batteries. And but I want to make this point. It's not like if you go into green, you can just close the chapter of the old industries and start totally new. It will be a transition. So the last few minutes, I want to give the example of even for solar, you still need storage of energy.
Correct.
And the storage of energy, as we know it for the layman, is called a battery. But the technology of material science and otherwise hasn't progressed that much for the storage part to really complement the capacity that we can generate from Bakun, from our solar farm from Perlis to Sarawak, to make it very commercially and feasibly used in the supply chain. Now, having what you have done for Serba Dinamik, and I salute you for it, I've been there with you guys at the day that you were listed here at Bukit Kewangan until now, from RM1.50 to more than RM4 sometimes. I hope it's going to go to 5 soon. How do you look at this part here where that transition is actually a business opportunity? But sometimes people are very hesitant because of the perception against the old industry. But I'm just saying, for a lot of new technopreneurs, entrepreneurs, startups out there, this is the sweet spot that Malaysia can reach. What do you think, Datuk?
I have the opinion that the competency in understanding what we want to undertake is very important. If we have that understanding, then it builds up the confidence for us or the respective parties to go out to explain to people. Because I think people just need one explanation.
I see.
And if we can really explain and justify what we are doing, the buy-in will be there. So it very much goes back to the ability to absorb, understand, and reason out why we have to undertake this thing and explain it to the respective parties that is related to it.
Datuk, if I have money, I'll buy all the Serba Dinamik shares that I can, but I do not. I'm just a poor journalist and editor. But we have a lot of ideas and thought leadership, thanks to you, for giving the local relevance, even regional and global one, to all the great things being discussed at the World Economic Forum. But the world is changing. The world is changing both in terms of the physical natural ecosystem and also the technology that will be leveraged to help the damage be contained. And I give you an example. Even a brewery company in Davos talk about how they would now be almost 100% in their smart manufacturing and green manufacturing using renewable energy. Here, we play the moral card so much, but we are still throwing garbage into the river, into the sea. The utilization of our manufacturing still have great carbon footprint being released into the atmosphere. So these are the things that make me proud to fly the Malaysian flag in Davos, because that conversation will have to continue. And before the next Davos happen, this is the venue. This is Agenda AWANI. We never run away from taking the risk to talk about tough new things that we need to talk about. And with the support of people like Serba Dinamik, we can make this nation way better than it is. This is Malaysia Baru. This is Agenda AWANI. I'll see you again very soon. Goodbye. Thank you so much.